so many threads to unpick and so many clues to ponder, our investigators barely know which way to turn. But first, there's the will of Jackson and Elias that needs reading. Thanks for joining us for this next episode of Steady Rollman Presents The Master of Nyarlathotep. Let's get the action underway with our Keeper of Secrets.
Okay, so we're going to do things from an intro perspective, do things a little bit differently today. So I'll give you a kind of a précis of what happened in the last session, and then just to check your remembrance or stroke understanding. So first thing that you did, Saturday the 17th of January, we started the session with you researching in Columbia University and New York Library. Can you remember what you discovered via those researches?
The owner and the name of the ship.
Yep. The Dark Mistress.
Yep. And that was Lex.
Yep.
His amazing
Library
research
use.
skills.
Okay. Can you remember who it was registered to?
It was registered in Britain to...
In my defence, I don't have my notes because I'm not using my desktop. It is written down.
Alfred Penhurst.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Penhurst.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, that research was followed up by a conversation with Lieutenant Poole at the 7th Precinct regarding Jackson's empty suitcase. Can you remember how that conversation went and what happened?
Well, you absolutely didn't believe us when we said that it was empty when we got there. That's for sure.
Correct.
Yeah, I had to shamefacedly admit to having all of Jackson's papers.
Basically, we spilled our guts.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. You spilled your guts. You showed him all of the items that you recovered from room 410 in the Chelsea Hotel at the scene of Jackson's murder from
And
the
we
suitcase.
said we were very, very sorry.
Yeah, and how was that? How was that conversation left?
He decided that he kind of trusted us in a "I've got no other choice" sort of way, and we should go where he can't.
Absolutely.
We were also and we were concerned about his boss, who appears to be shooting people up left, right, and centre.
Is he a lieutenant or a captain?
Captain Robson.
That's it.
Okay, so Captain Robson is a captain in another precinct. So he's in precinct 14 in Harlem, where all the issues have been happening. But yeah, you're right, Lieutenant Poole, who's in precinct 7A. He is concerned because Captain Robson outranks him and has previously pulled rank on him. And he explained that Captain Robson was taking an unhealthy interest in your statements, wanted to know who you were and what you were doing. Well, not you, but who'd given statements, and he's done.
At the moment.
Pardon?
What we're doing, bugger all.
Yeah, and so Lieutenant Poole has done his best to keep you out of the press and also away from Captain Poole because he has suspicions about him being on the take. Okay. So yeah, it was agreed that you would continue investigations in a surreptitious fashion, and you wouldn't do anything silly to bring yourself to the attention of Captain. There was also a telephone call to Miriam Atwright at Harvard University. Can you remember what that was all about?
Oh, she told us about Jackson looking for the book Africa's Dark Sects. It disappeared from the library. Mm-hmm. Jackson had been researching the bloody tongue. He didn't actually visit.
No, and she doesn't remember it going missing, and she's got some kind of memory gap. So we think that something may have to her
associated with an unspeakable odour. Correct,
indeed. And then you met her later on at the funeral, but she didn't really have much to add. Okay, so on Sunday you also observed Juju House in Harlem. Can you remember what happened?
You were moved along by the police.
Correct. Did you see anything of any interest at the Juju House?
Absolutely nothing.
Correct again. It was Sunday that it appeared that it was closed. All the curtains were drawn across the window, so you couldn't really see inside. And like you said before, you were able to really do much. The police, coincidentally or not, turned up and decided to move you along because, well, they didn't really give a reason other than it was not safe for you to be in Harlem. Can you remember what your excuse was?
Lost.
Yeah.
Stupid
tourist.
Okay. Jacob also contacted some of his own contacts in Harlem you remember what the outcome of that was, Jacob?
A bit more information, I think, about Captain Robson. He's pretty much universally hated in Harlem, considered a racist, fitting up black suspects in the pay of several criminal gangs. Not sure whether I got this from the contacts, but the suggestion was that he framed Hilton Adams in respect to the murders.
Okay.
Yeah, and that belief is backed up by the reporter, Rebecca Schosenberg.
Yeah.
Who I think then we also met at the funeral.
Correct. Yeah.
So that reporter, I think, had been speaking to Lieutenant Paul, and that's how we first heard of him, of her and her suspicions, and then it's been backed up independently.
Yeah, absolutely right. Rebecca Schosenberg did investigate the original murders, of which there have been 9, including Jackson's, and is keen to continue to delve into whether there's been any miscarriage of justice and the rumours around Captain Robson being, like you said, on the take, and the fact that Hilton Adams has been fitted up. So Monday, it was the day of the funeral. Monday morning, Jacob, again, I think it was Jacob, made a call to Professor Cowles at Miskatonic University, the outcome of which was...
He may or may not call us back.
I mean, to be honest, you should know all this, Darren.
Yeah, you're really helping me here, thanks.
Yeah, it's a good thing we remember.
Okay, yeah, correct. So he was in a lecture at the time, and arrangements were made for him to call you back at an unprescribed time. Okay.
I don't know. I've got on my notes. I've got calling back after 5 p.m. But I don't know
that's fairly unprescribed, isn't it? After 5.
Yeah.
But I think whoever Jacob spoke to, secretary, whatever, believes that there would be a transcript of that lecture that he gave.
Yeah, that's correct.
Or maybe that was what Jacob was after. If possible, is there one available?
I think Jacob did ask whether there would be, and she said, she, as far as she was aware, that yes, there would. Okay, and then lastly, the afternoon, on Monday afternoon, Monday, January the 19th, you attended Jackson's funeral in Brooklyn. Can you remember what happened there, other than the funeral ring, the funeral rites, etc.? Anything else of any interest?
We tried to avoid talking to a reporter. I remember that. I was most avoidive.
Correct.
Evasive. I know English.
Evasive, that's the word.
Yeah.
Avoidant.
To be fair, my character actually is a native French speaker. I'm doing really well, I think.
Yeah, I think avoided is about right. Yeah, so you avoided Rebecca Schosenberg's questions, and you pretended that you didn't know each other.
I think.
Did we get invited to the reading of The Will by Carlton Ramsey?
You did.
Jackson's attorney.
You did. So he asked you whether you'd be happy to come along after the funeral service to his offices to like you said,
on the corner of 121st Street, 24th Street, and Lenox Avenue.
There you go. Yes.
Ramsey Rebecca Schosenberg could be a very good lead for it, but too scary for the likes of Lex and Stanton.
Sure.
So, because I think she tried to speak to Stanton as well. He similarly was a rabbit in the headlights. However, Miriam did speak to Douglas, but sort of reaffirmed the stories that we said before. But it seems as though she could well be someone that we can continue speaking to as our investigations develop. Seems to be a bit of an ally.
Okay. Excellent. So you are just leaving. Brings us to you just leaving the funeral. The funeral has finished, and there wasn't, as you can probably remember, there wasn't a huge amount of attendees, mourners. But you're all filing your way out of the chapel in which the funeral took place. You know that at this time of year, because it's so cold, there's still snow and stuff on the ground, and also the ground would be frozen solid. Obviously, Jackson won't be buried at this stage because you can't, because the ground's too hard. So he will be kept in a mausoleum for a while until such time as the thaw comes, at which point he will then be buried. Okay, as you're filing out, I presume you're filing out again separately and pretending that you don't know each other.
Yeah, we'll keep
I can't remember. The only thing I don't remember from last session is who it was. Oh no, that's fine. Carry on. Okay, so you notice that Rebecca Schosenberg, as you're filing out and walking down the white gravelled path to the gates of the cemetery, you notice that she's deep in conversation with one of the mourners, and he is a gentleman that Jonah Kensington previously referred to, and also you've seen him before as being his name is Noah Cameron, and he's a barman at the Chelsea Hotel. You've seen him a few times, and you know that Jackson knew him fairly well. You get the impression that as Rebecca Schosenberg is talking to him, like he keeps there's the odd occasion where their eyes kind of flit towards you, and one occasion she actually looks round as she's talking to him, and she catches Douglas's eye, and Douglas, you see like a kind of knowing smile on her face, as if she's been made aware of something that she didn't previously know.
Well, we can continue to play ignorant in the face of all evidence.
Okay. So you want again? You go down the path to the gates, and again ahead of you, you see somebody, a young girl, well, probably about maybe 16, 17, who is waiting for Rebecca Schosenberg and engages her in conversation again, and they're deep in conversation, quite animated conversation as you go past. Are you just gonna leave?
I am quite keen to leave, and I am being very wary of potentially particularly sore at wind in the surface.
As you go past Lex, you hear that Rebecca Schosenberg says, Lex, how's the side?
Thank you.
I don't think you've been fully honest with me about who you are and what you've been up to over the past few days. The same may be said for some of your friends as well.
I just shrug.
What do you know about the murder? She says, comes up to you. You were there. From what I understand, you and your friends actually killed the murderers. Is that right?
I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, ma'am.
She turns to the young girl, just come up to him. My assistant here has just come back from Bellevue Hospital. We have some contacts there. I understand that you were there fairly recently.
I do a difficult manual job. Sometimes I get hurt.
Yeah, I kind of know what's happened. Speaking to the barman at the Chelsea, he's told me that you were all there that night, and the description of the individual that the ambulance brought him after an altercation in the hotel suggests that you were stabbed by. You have a stab wound, quite a serious one. So we can, if you don't, we can probably drop the pretense, can't we? She says, smiling. You don't need to worry about talking to me. I'm interested in what you know, especially about who could have murdered Jackson. She gives you she puts a card in your hand. Says, "Why don't you speak to your friends and tell them that I know all about it, and maybe you could pop by in the office tomorrow and we can have a chat."
I'll pocket the card and walk away.
It's a New York Times card.
Yeah.
Okay. Carlton Ramsey. He comes up. Are you all three? Are you going to leave separately, or how are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to walk off in separate directions?
It very much seems like any form of pretense that we had of not knowing each other has completely fallen flat.
Yeah, I mean, you can see Rebecca Schosenberg speaking to Lex, and you get the impression that, in fact, you could probably even hear it if you're not exactly a million miles away.
Yeah, I'm just going to walk over and say, Lex, we should leave. We have places to be.
Yeah, I was already walking away from her. Put the card in my pocket.
Okay.
What time is it?
It's about 4:15. Yeah, the service started at 2, and so that'd be about. Okay, so Carlton Ramsey, the small, wiry, bespectacled African American man in his mid-50s, as I mentioned previously, is wearing an expensive bespoke suit and a tailored overcoat. He comes up to you after saying goodbye to Jonah, and says, "Would you like to share a cab back to the office?"
Why not?
Yep, very kind.
Okay, you're back in a jiffy. He hails a cab, and you make the journey. You start the journey from Brooklyn back down to Manhattan.
Going to keep an eye out, see whether we're being followed.
Okay, I should. You sitting in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not even going to be surreptitious about it. I'm just going to be staring out the back window.
Okay, the rest of you, the rest of you guys, and they can all see. In fact, Blake, Douglas seems a little bit on edge, and yeah, he's kind of constantly looking behind him all the time during the taxi journey.
You
Which is
worried,
quite
Douglas?
Yeah, something to be discussed later on, but we were being, or at least I was being watched during the service. So I think we should be very much aware of the possibility that we are being followed. Don't mean in the terms of just being observed, could be in danger. So keep an eye out for any suspicious behaviour.
Could you describe them so in case one of us sees them?
Yeah, it's a kind of. I didn't see what he was wearing because I just saw the face at the window. But it's a kind of like Weasley-looking fellow, clean shaven.
Take it as not someone you knew.
No, it is someone I know. But we should discuss later on. As I say, I shall look at the other occupants of the cab because this is not something to be shared.
Carlton's sitting in the front.
Yeah.
The rest of you guys are in the back of the yellow cab. Okay, so presently the yellow cab makes its way down into Harlem, where it pulls up outside the offices of Ramsey and Co. on 124th Street and Lenox Avenue, and you follow Carlton Ramsey across the now cleared path and up a flight of stairs into a small, simply decorated office. Outside, the light is already beginning to fade, quite as nighttime approaches in the winter months. Okay.
I didn't see anything untoward behind us in the journey.
Sorry, yeah, you with all of your vigilance, then no, you saw nothing to give you any further concerns at this stage.
Good.
Obviously, it's quite difficult to with the amount of traffic that are on the roads, and especially as you come into the city. But no, you saw nothing. Okay, so yeah, in the small, simply decorated office of Carlton Ramsey, he sits behind his desk. The only other occupant, as you in a kind of adjoining room, is a tall, athletic, young, blonde-haired woman who wears a tailored skirt and jacket. And Carlton introduces you to Willa. It's his secretary, but also his niece as well. He asks you to all sit down and kind of shuffle some papers around on his desk. He says, "How do you think the service went?"
As well as can be expected.
Yeah, I thought Reverend O'Dell did Jackson proud, to be honest, and I think Jonah did a good job of arranging it in such a short. It can't have been easy for him. Like me, it's still a real shock.
It's a shame that it attracted the attention of the press.
Yeah, well, it's going to, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the. I'm surprised there weren't more reporters there. I think the Lieutenant Poole did a good job in keeping it away from the mainstream press.
Yes.
But well, first things first. He grabs a key from his desk, and he unlocks a drawer in his bottom drawer in his desk, and he pulls out a bottle which looks it's got no label on it, but looks very much like whiskey. I think Jackson would appreciate us tasting him with a bootleg bottle of bourbon.
Indeed.
Very apt.
He walks into the other room and grabs some glasses and then pours you all a double shot of bourbon and raises his glass. He says, "To Jackson, one of a kind."
Jackson.
Indeed.
Yeah, Jackson.
Okay, knock back the bourbon, and your thoughts kind of drift back to the time in Peru when you first met him and all your adventures back then. I still can't believe he's gone, to be honest. It's yeah.
Absolutely.
It's almost like he had some sort of premonition that this was going to happen. He called in not 2 days before his death to update his will. When he didn't say anything to me explicitly, but even at that point, I had a feeling that he was in fear of his life. But I didn't realise that the fear was quite so grounded and also so imminent. He
Well,
said he
the
wanted to
manner
make.
how he contacted us as well suggested that he knew he was at risk. The fact he was putting his affairs in order.
Very much rushed, isn't it?
Mm.
If only he'd sought our help earlier.
Exactly, and Jonah said the same. And I said, "We can't beat ourselves up. I mean, we were always here for him. He knew where we were. I just think the stuff he was meddling in just caught up with him. But I think it's normal for us to beat ourselves up. Should we have done this? Should we have said that? It's a tough one to handle. But
If we'd have been a couple of minutes earlier to his hotel room, but there's no point in thinking that way, as you say. All we can do is make sure that we get those responsible, make sure they pay, and make sure they don't do it to anyone else.
yeah, okay. Well, some of this stuff here may kind of reinforce that for you guys. So maybe we should just press on. He draws the will out and he starts to read through it. So to summarize, the reading of the will takes me about 20 minutes to read through it all. But to summarize what Carlton Ramsey tells you is that Jackson Elias has given full power of attorney to Ramsey, who has complete authority to liquidate his assets. Ramsey is instructed to use these assets to create and manage a fund. Elias requests that any friends of his who attend the reading may make use of this fund to continue his investigation of the Carlisle expedition. Ramsey will make disbursements from the fund to pay for travel, accommodation, living costs, equipment purchases, legal bills, and medical expenses. Participating investigators should make sure they require the necessary receipts and send them on to Ramsey in a timely fashion. Ramsey is also to act as a central point of contact for those involved. If you split into multiple groups, he will coordinate communications between you. He will also assist with recruitment should additional numbers be required. So the assets that are left in trust for Ramsey to administer come to a little over $40,000. In addition to that, he's also left donations in memory of Trinidad Rizzo to the Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology in Lima, and a donation to the Boys Club of New York. There is also a letter that he left with me and asked me to open it and read it to you should the worst happen to him. So you can see a letter that he's got in his hand. It's unopened. He opens it, Carlton does, and kind of begins reading. Greetings from beyond the grave. By now you know that all I've really left you is a whole heap of trouble. If I was still around to have an opinion on the matter, I would understand if you decided to walk away from it all. Hell, if I'm dead right now, that's a good indication I should have done the same. But you know me too well, and I know you too well. If you were the kind of person who always did the sensible thing, then we wouldn't be friends. You have been there when I needed you in the past, and I hope you will be there again, even if it's too late to save me. I've been pulling threads all over the world, and while most of them are still unraveling, I think I'm onto something big. Jonah can fill you in on more of the details for you. I've left some of my papers and notes with him, as well as some leads I'm planning on following up in my suitcase, which should help you work out which hornet's nest you need to poke next. The code is 0328 after our Peruvian escapade. I trust you to bring my killers to justice, of course. I'm assuming I was murdered. It would just be plain embarrassing if I was run down by a trolley car. Follow my investigation to its bloody ends and seek out the truth. I'm not asking you to finish my book. None of you can write worth a damn. Just save the world. It's all about the team. Your friend always, Jackson. Wow.
Is it smoky in here? I think I've got something in my eye.
Yeah, I certainly have a lump in my throat too. It's hard to hear his words. I can just hear them in my head. So yeah, I guess that from my perspective, none of you guys are forced into this. It seems that Jackson has left you a legacy, but if you feel like this isn't something that you want to be involved in, then I'll understand that.
It's a final gift we can't refuse. He knew exactly what he was doing.
He knew that we wouldn't say no. Don't finish the book, just save the world. Can't really refuse Jackson.
Yeah, he was always one for exaggeration. I don't really rightly know what went on with you in Peru, but all I can say is that even over that short period of weeks, he viewed you as valuable friends, which, considering his itinerant nature, he wasn't one for making really close friends that easily. So I think he must have seen in you something of himself in some ways. Yeah, it's up to you. It's an unusual one, but I, for one, intend to do everything that he's asked me to do, and I will support you, all of you, if you're happy to take up the mantle.
Well, I think we already have. But all it tells us is that the investigations that we've so far taken in order to track down his killers here, he foresees it taking us to other countries if he feels that it requires funding and the recruitment potentially of other parties to assist. It is going to be a major undertaking. So we need to start planning.
Yeah, I mean, pulling at threads all over the world, that certainly does have a... I know that he obviously travelled widely, but this seems bigger and more involved than any of his previous book research.
Do you have anything else of his? Anything else that might provide us with, other than what we have from the suitcase?
I have I understand that Joan, you've already seen Jonah, have you not?
Yes,
we have, and I think we've possibly already have the documents that that Jackson refers to.
Yeah. Other than that, I have only a couple of other leads that he mentioned to me on the day that he came in to change his will. He mentioned that he had been speaking to a Fleet Street newspaper called The Scoop, and wanted me to write down Mickey Mahoney's name as being a contact.
I've heard of Fleet Street, but I haven't heard of The Scoop. What, my British chums? Is this a popular paper?
Okay.
Possibly.
A scandal rag.
Doesn't really sound like one that we would have ironed and delivered in the morning.
So you're absolutely right. So Stanton, you haven't ever heard of it, but Douglas, you have heard of The Scoop. And you're exactly right. It is a scandal rag that specialises in stories about gory murders, sex scandals, and weird happenings. He also mentioned that he was dealing with an Inspector Barrington at New Scotland Yard. Inspector James Barrington. I have no idea what about. Both of those are in London. I mean, I'm not asking you to go over to London, but he was keen that I had that information, which suggests that he has uncovered information and had meaningful conversations with both of those individuals. I don't really know how to say this, but I don't. And again, you maybe know better than me, but from what I understand from Jonah, there was some question marks about Jackson's state of mind towards the end of his investigations. So
yes, he did say.
I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm saying, but I think I'm saying I'm not sure that all of this can be taken at face value.
No, or it could be taken at face value, and that is his state of mind. So we will see where it leads us. We at least owe him that. If it turns out that it's some kind of fault in his faculties even, then at least we'll know.
Okay.
Right. Well, then I guess that we.
What do you know about this? What do you know about this Carlisle expedition? I mean, to me, it's I vaguely. In fact, I don't even really know anything about it. It's something that when did it happen? Back in 5-6 years ago. I mean, yeah, I know. I know Erica Carlisle's attorney, Bradley Gray. His name is. He, from what I remember, he deals with a lot of her personal and business affairs.
Are you friends with him?
I wouldn't say friends, but professional acquaintances. I certainly have spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Do you know him well enough for him to make introduction for us to her, speak about the expedition?
Yeah, I could certainly try. Of course, yes. I think. Why would we be wanting to talk to her about the expedition? On what basis? I'm sure that is what the first question that I will be asked.
Well, perhaps you could share with her attorney that we're also interested in finding out the fate of those on the expedition. From what we hear, Erica has precisely that interest. She wants to find out what happened to her family members.
Well, she believes that she has found out, doesn't she? So we could say that we have additional information which suggests that what she believes happened to her brother was in fact not the whole truth, and that we would like to discuss this concern with her. Or we could, if she would prefer, we could pass some information to her lawyer that he could forward on, and then depending on whether it piques her interest, we could arrange to meet.
Yes, well, let me speak to Mr. Gray and see what reception I get. I believe that informing him that Erica's belief that what happened to her brother may not be correct could potentially, as you say, pique her interest, and the fact that I can recommend you as being thoroughly good citizens and nothing at all to do with the press will hopefully sway her, and like you say, with her curiosity also give us a chance. Leave that with me. I will do what I can.
That would certainly do us a great service. Do not think that we would be able to get to meet her without some form of third-party introduction.
No, like I say, with her place in society, I feel that she is quite difficult to reach. But yes, we will. Well, if you feel that speaking to her will have will be of benefit to your investigations, then I will certainly do my best.
Yes, I believe it would. Gentlemen, do you concur?
Absolutely, it's one of Jackson's threads, to put it that way.
Yeah, it's had quite a few threads.
Well said, Jacob. I will do my best to pull at that thread as effectively as I can.
Thank you, Carlton.
So that is it. Well, for now, at least.
We will no doubt
can
be in touch shortly.
Yes, with a view to being in touch and remaining in touch for enacting Jackson's wishes. I could take your addresses and contact details, please, if possible.
Yes, of course. If you have a pen and paper, I shall write them down.
Okay, you all write down your contact details and telephone numbers.
Yeah.
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 Okay. And Carlton gives you a card. He also writes his home telephone number on the back of the card as well, in case you need to speak to him out of business hours.
I would be very grateful if you would keep our contact details secure. If we are investigating people who murdered Jackson, then I fear that our lives may be at risk as well. So it follows that somebody may wish to find out our locations. So please guard those details and let us know if you feel that somebody has gained access to them.
Of course, I have a strong box here. I will ensure that I keep all your contact details safe. This office is very safe at night. We have good locks, and we hire a security guard also. You needn't worry about that. As you can imagine, we have many important documents on the premises. Well, gentlemen, I guess that is it for today. That is business all wrapped up. He looks out the window. It seems that snow is beginning to fall once again. It is rather relentless.
It is. Well, thank you, Carlton. It's been a difficult day, but thank you, and perhaps we'll make our way. I think I need to return to my apartment anyway, in the hope that the good professor returns my call.
Indeed.
Maybe we should accompany you back. We can talk on the way.
Okay, you leave the Harlem offices of Carlton Ramsey out into the cold January evening, bitterly cold, cold wind blowing. It's not snowing heavily, but there are snowflakes upon the wind. Okay, you're outside now.
I'll I think we'll hail a cab and head to my apartment. You're welcome to join me, gentlemen.
Yeah, we can talk on the way.
You're all going in the cab back to Jonas's, not Jonas.
Yeah, unless anybody else.
Jacob's house.
Yeah.
Okay, you are now in the cab, talking on the way.
So you remember I told you why I left London those years ago, that I stumbled upon a cultish ceremony and was driven out of Scotland Yard, and threats were made on my life, and that led me to moving to the States, and from whence I was again tracked down, which led to me joining the expedition to Lima. Well, at the service, the window, I spotted one of the suspects who was involved in the ceremony in Mayfair those years ago. A gentleman by the name of Alfred Kinnery. He was a civil servant during the war, but the fact that he, after all this time, tracked me down suggests that there may be a connection to what Jackson was investigating and what I stumbled upon those years ago. As if that's not the case, then the coincidence is extreme and concerning. But the fact that it's here means that my life is at increased risk, and by extension, I fear yours is as well, so we should be careful. And it also suggests to me that maybe the urgency with which we should investigate the Juju house increases, because that would seem to be the location of, if they are conducting ceremonies, that would be the place for them to be doing it. And if that is so, then we need to find out and do all we can to disrupt it.
Were there any parallels, Douglas, between the cult that you stumbled across in London and the Bloody Tongue?
No, it was accidental. I wasn't This was my first experience of anything to do with the supernatural, the paranormal. I was investigating suspected German spies who had been working in London. I was following two gentlemen, and there was activity in the Mayfair apartment. Myself and my colleague gained access to the house because we saw people entering, and this was not just suspected German collaborators, but wealthy socialites, members of the civil service, and even some high-ranking British military. When we made our way down into the cellar, we saw some form of ceremony going on. It was things that we could not rationalize away, strange occurrences, but nothing that matches what we have experienced. But we did not stay long enough to observe. When we returned the following day, having gained a warrant to a search warrant to gain formal access to the building, all traces were gone. But soon afterwards, my colleague died from, I was told, sepsis, and I myself felt that I was being followed, and my house was burned down not long afterwards. I was lucky to make it out alive, but I was sidelined in my work, and my colleagues did not want to talk to me, weren't interested in investigating further what I'd seen. So their tendrils stretched further than I could deal with. Hence, I made my way across the Atlantic with a view to escaping that situation, but it appears to have followed me and has followed me ever since.
And those tendrils appear to reach high into some powerful places.
Well, indeed. And there is this, and I will pull a dagger from the back of my belt. I carry this with me. This is a ceremonial dagger that I was attacked with shortly before we left for Lima. If you remember, I was suffering from an injury. I was attacked with this, and I managed to kill my assailant. But I keep this blade to remind me of what I'm against. I'll hand it over to you. I mean, this is. I have never been able to identify its nature. It may be of some use for us to investigate further.
Do any of us recognise anything about it or can place it?
Let's have a look. Okay, you see Douglas hands you a silvered ceremonial dagger which has an upside down ankh, A-N-K-H, never know how you pronounce that. Is it ankh or ankh? The
Hank.
I think.
ankh, the Egyptian hieroglyph. It's upside down and it's carved inlaid in the blade. That's the only decoration on the blade. But other than that, no, it doesn't look Egyptian. That's for sure. But and you think it's probably reasonably old, but maybe a couple hundred years old. But other than that, and the upside down sigil, it's fairly unremarkable.
Maybe nothing, it may be something.
Mm.
But regardless, the connection is there that Kinnery has made an appearance, so we should be careful. That is the reason why I move around. They knew where I lived, and they sought me out. So that is where we stand.
Enemies at every turn, hiding in the shadows.
Exactly so. But I have the advantage of knowing that we are being watched as opposed to suspecting we are being watched. It is good to know that it is not merely my own paranoia, but a genuine threat. A genuine threat is something that we can guard against.
Okay, the taxi has just arrived at Jacob's apartment, Upper East Side. So you pay the driver, and I presume you go into Jacob's apartment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, Jacob, you open your front door, you head into your down to the back of the house in the passageway between your living room and kitchen area where your telephone is situated. You see that a red light on top of the telephone is flashing, indicating that you have had a call that you did not answer. Unfortunately, there were no answer phones in the 1920s.
And the only number I've got for Professor Cowles was the actual,
The
I think, which
Arkham
is called the
University
switch.
number. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about 6 o'clock now.
I
fact-
will just, yeah.
The clock
I don't think
is chiming 6 as you go in.
I'll just try the Arkham University number, just on the off chance that he's still working and there's still someone around.
Okay.
Which is Miskatonic, isn't it? Miskatonic University. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay. The secretary eventually answers the phone. Good evening, Miskatonic University.
Good evening. It's Jacob Lockhart. Did I speak to you earlier? Let me remind you.
Remind me.
I was trying to contact Professor Anthony Cowles.
Oh yes, it was me. I did pass the message on to Professor Cowles.
I know. I'm wondering if I've missed his call. You wouldn't be able to put me through to him, would you?
I doubt whether he's still here at this time, but I can try.
Thank you.
Just bear with me a second. The line goes dead. And then, hello. Yes, Professor Cowles is still in the building. Just bear with me again.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Then you hear the click of the phone. Good day, Professor Cowles speaking.
Professor Cowles, good evening. I'm sorry to trouble you in the evening. It's Jacob Lockhart. I left a message for you to call me earlier. I've just returned to my apartment after attending the funeral of a friend, and I've noticed that I missed a call. Was it you?
Yeah, I did call you back.
Oh, I'm very grateful. Thank you. Would you have time now?
Well, what's it all about?
Well,
I don't know you, do I?
You don't. I'm wondering if you might know a friend of mine, Jackson Elias.
Can't say the name means anything to me. No, Jackson Elias. You say no?
He was an author.
No, it doesn't mean anything to me at all.
Well, Professor.
Should I?
Well, perhaps he may have known you, Professor. Look, I'll come straight to the point, Professor. Jackson was a friend of mine, and he was murdered recently in the most brutal circumstances.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, thank you. My colleagues and I attended his funeral today. We've been assisting the police in trying to find out a little more about his background to assist them in finding his killers and bringing them to justice. One of your flyers was in Jackson's possession, and I was just wondering, well, you've answered my first question. I was wondering whether you may have met him or been in touch with him in recent weeks, but perhaps not.
Which fly are you talking about?
It was, let me find it. Just bear with me. I know I left it somewhere. It was a lecture you delivered recently.
Where was the lecture?
It was a lecture entitled "The Cult of Darkness."
Oh, yeah. Well, I've done a few of those of late. That would be in the New York University. Is that what you're referring to?
That was the one. Yes.
Yeah.
It's possible that Jackson
Sorry,
attended. But...
Sorry, Jacob, but I'm not really understanding what you're driving at here. What your friends died. I get that, but where do I fit in? Where does my lecture have anything to do with that?
Well, I'm wondering whether he intended to try and speak to you. Presumably, is cults a particular area of your expertise?
Yeah, I mean, this particular lecture was about. What did you say his name was again?
Jackson Elias.
Yeah, I think I've read a couple of his books. I'm sure I have.
Does the Cult of Darkness have a different name, or what is the Cult of Darkness? Could you say?
Well, the lecture was about the cult of the Sandbat. It's a Aboriginal cult in Australia. That's what the lecture was about. But yeah, I remember reading a couple of books that Elias has written on some Polynesian cults. You say he was at my lecture? I didn't even know.
Well, I don't know necessarily, but I know he had a flyer for your lecture, so I'm assuming he may have been.
Well, yeah, the lecture was about, as I said, the Bat cult, Aboriginal kind of. I've got also some ruins that have been found in the northern desert in Australia, which suggests that this cult that was potentially seen as having died out was could still be functioning. That's what the lecture was about. Some slides from a surveyor acquaintance of mine back in Oz that I knew, who sadly died now, but he'd found some weird standing stones in the desert and taken some Kodaks of them. So yeah, I mean, it was about, in essence, the cult of the Sambat, the father of all bats, and that type of thing. But I mean, again, I can see why Mr. Elias might have been there, and I'm honoured that he was. But as to how this fits in with his death, I don't think I don't know. I don't see.
Well, I'm not. I have to say, Professor, I'm not seeing it either at the moment. Is there? There was a name of a cult mentioned somewhere. Something called the Bloody Tongue. Does that mean anything to you?
No. I'm afraid it doesn't. I mean, that sounds like something that Elias would have been. I've read some of. Well, I haven't read them, but I know that he wrote some books about Indian cults, and African cults. But no, that name doesn't mean anything to me, I'm afraid. You think that there was some sort of cult involvement in his death?
Well, who knows? It's one of the things the police are trying to establish.
Tell me, how was he killed?
Well, as I say, brutally. It was disemboweled.
Not with a club, then?
No. Why? Is that the calling card of someone else?
Well, the cult of the Sandbat used clubs with a bat's teeth soaked in poison stuck in the end of them. I just wondered how he died.
Well, Professor, I'm very grateful for you speaking to me, and sorry that I may have wasted your time. Could you just bear with me a second? I've got a colleague with me, and I just wonder if they may want to ask you anything that I might have missed. I'll look around to the rest of them.
Transcript of the lecture. Could you send that?
Oh yes, Professor. I did mention this to your secretary. I'd be very interested if one is available of having a transcript of your lecture. I'd be very keen to read it. Would you be able to arrange for your secretary to post a copy to me?
Yeah. Well, I don't see why not. Yeah,
And
I'll get
anything on the standing stones, the Australian size standing stones.
Well, let me give you my address first, Professor, and so I'll give him my business address. And those standing stones, Professor, they rather piqued my interest. Did you visit them? Clearly from that part of the world yourself.
No, I haven't been back home in a while. I've been over here studying and lecturing. I do plan on going back and possibly popping up north and having a look. I've got some relatives that live up there, but it's just getting the money together to do it.
Wow, I know. Was there anything particularly unusual about the standing stones?
Well, the fact that they're there. I mean, it's that the desert isn't well known for having any lost ruins in. So yeah, I mean, it's the whole rumor of them being there isn't being taken seriously by those in authority, those
No.
academics that know better. So that's why none of the established institutions in Australia have funded any expedition, because it's all seen as just being hearsay and an Aboriginal nonsense. But
Well, that's a shame. They must be ancient if they're Aboriginal in nature.
yeah, well, like I say, it's something that I have a plan to do in the future. But for now, I'm over here. Yeah, well, I'm happy to send you the transcript if that helps, and I can get my secretary to send you a copy of the photographs as well if you'd like.
Oh, that would be very interesting. Thank you. I do know some people who are often interested in funding expeditions. So if I keep your contact details, I hope you wouldn't mind if I pass those on. They might be interested.
No, no, that's absolutely fine. I'm planning on returning to Sydney in maybe 7 months once my fellowship is complete. So if you're interested in coming on an expedition, did you say that you're an academic man yourself?
Well, I'm not myself, but perhaps more of a hobbyist. But I do have a keen interest, and some of my associates are more academic. But I would be very interested to read the transcript and to see the photographs. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I'll just quickly cast my eyes around the rest of the group and shrug my shoulders, as in anything else you want me to ask.
If you want to pop up to Arkham and have a chat anytime, then do that. You're only down in New York. It's not that far. Quick train journey.
Thank you, Professor. If we ever find ourselves in that part of the country, I may take you up on that. Thank you.
No worries.
Well, I won't take any more of your time, Professor. I'm very grateful for you speaking to me in the evening. I'll let you go. Thank you.
He puts the phone down.
Well,
that all sounded very positive. It'd be great to have a look at the transcript of this lecture and photographs of those stones, see if there are any links.
Jackson refer to Australia in any of his papers?
Don't recall.
To refer to everywhere else, many other places in the world, but
well, that may be significant that he hasn't been there.
He's sending us everywhere else. It would be a shame to leave the Antipodes out.
Well, I can't help thinking that particular thread with Professor Cowles ended there. I can't really see any. That's
Let's see what happens when we receive the transcript. That may provide more.
It's clearly something that Jackson was interested in, but we don't know how far down that particular avenue he progressed.
Well, gentlemen, I've got a rather fine bottle of whiskey, so if you'd like to continue where we left off at Carlton's, perhaps I could pour you all a glass.
I think that would be an outstanding idea.
Okay, you all recline, relax in Jacob's reasonably well furnished and quite comfortable apartment. Reflecting the upturn that his financial affairs have seen of late.
Yeah, the antiques trade is definitely provides an opportunity for comfortable living.
I have to say, the funds we brought back from Peru gave it a healthy shot in the arm.
And I guess as being able to find these treasures for others is helpful, knowing the people that you do.
Yes. Well, it always helps to have connections in my line of business. Well, gentlemen, what next?
Juju Club.
Juju Club.
I was worried you were going to say that, Douglas.
Yeah. Well, do we know what it is? I mean, my assumption is that it's a speakeasy of some description, but it may just be a shop. It may, because that's all we know that it is.
Might have. I might know someone who might be able to tell me if it is a speakeasy. I worked on the docks for a guy named Bill Dwyer, and I did deliveries all over the city. Fermented fizzy bottles of deliveries. Sometimes distilled bottles of deliveries. You get what I'm saying? Deliveries.
Hmm.
He might be. He might know. He might be on his round. I could ask.
Yeah, that would be good. We need to try and think of some way in which we could gain access. The trouble is, it's having an English accent makes me obvious if I go in there and start asking questions. I'm wondering
Yeah.
whether if we, or a couple of us, went in posing as officers of the law, investigating bootlegging, speakeasies. It would be a way to search the premises, but that would require fake badges and a fake search warrant, which is going to be difficult for us to come by.
If we mob up and pretend to be police, we've got two problems. One, real police, and the second problem being if we cross any real gangsters.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is probably more risky than just breaking in.
Yeah.
But as I say, I am rather eager for us to gain access to that because I feel that that is the center of the web. As I said previously, here we will find out the most information there. Question is
Douglas,
how we get
can
in.
I ask?
Sorry.
Douglas, can I ask? I'm not sure. I may be missing something, but I'm not sure why. Why is it you think it's a speakeasy?
I don't know why. I just had it in my head. This is probably there was some reason why I thought that, but I have no evidence of that. I don't. It may well just be a shop.
I'm just trying. I'm trying to rack my brains to think what we know. All I can think about it is that we know that is it Silas and Kwame is the proprietor, owner, manager, and we know that Emerson were importing items, things like drums, masks, ceremonial spears. But I'm not sure.
Oh, I know why I thought why it might be a speakeasy was because the other victims who were murdered, I put two and two together and got six. And my suggestion was that the people who were murdered were visiting a speakeasy in Harlem. That was the speakeasy, and then they were subsequently singled out and murdered due to them frequenting that place.
Well, you may be right.
Yeah, but maybe they were singled out because they liked buying African art. It doesn't necessarily. I was trying to think of a reason for why they might visit the shop.
Darren, can you just remind us when we went there? It wasn't sort of a shop front on a street, was it? It was down an alleyway.
Yeah, that's right. So it's down an alleyway, and there's a small square in front of it.
And was there any signage at all?
There was a small sign on the door itself that just says Juju House, like a faded, almost like handwritten sign. And but the front window of the shop, which looked out onto the, like you said, the kind of courtyard at the end of the alleyway. The front window was curtained because it was Sunday, so you couldn't actually see what was in it. It's got it had like a shop window, bay window at the front, but the curtain runs on the inside of the glass, so you couldn't see.
Right.
The other side of the building, there are kind of barred windows that they back onto a main street, but there's no shop front on that side. The shop front actually opens onto the courtyard. On the other side, next to the Juju House building, there was an abandoned pawnbroker as well. That pawnbroker actually does front onto the main road, but you could see by the state of the building and the fact that it's boarded up and stuff that it's obviously not been in use for a while.
Well, perhaps we should take a trip there during business hours and just see whether it's open, see what's behind those curtains. It may be a shop. It may be something that we can walk into posing as customers just to try and get a little bit more intelligence before we embark on something more dramatic.
Well, let's go in and see whether, and do our usual thing of maybe looking to resell African art.
Yes.
So, well, let's do that then. I think we do. Unless anyone's got any other ideas, we go visit there tomorrow.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it might be safer in daytime.
Yeah, we're just going to go into the shop and buy things.
Okay, so it's about, by the time you finish chatting, drinking your whiskey, etc., it's probably about just gone 7ish now. So are you not doing anything else this evening? You're just going to
Then make our way home after that. After finishing up, not too late.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you all make your way back to your various abodes across the city. And where are you planning on meeting up tomorrow?
Who's closest to Harlem?
Probably
Nobody.
nobody's probably Stanton, I expect.
Yeah.
It's furthest north, I think.
Should we meet at yours, Stanton, and then make our way to Harlem?
Yes, certainly. Would you be requiring breakfast?
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Stanton.
I'll go down to the deli first thing.
Okay. Tuesday morning comes. Fresh dusting of snow, but nothing serious. Breakfast at Stanton's abode up in you live up by the university, don't you?
Yes.
So that
Upper
actually
West
is,
Side.
yeah, in the Upper West Side, Morningside Heights. So that actually is pretty close to Harlem, actually. Yeah, okay. And then what sort of timing do you want to head over to Harlem and the Juju house?
About 10:30.
Yeah.
Okay. Taxi? You're going to get a taxi across?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Douglas has got me quite paranoid now, so I'm going to keep an eye out.
Everybody's looking behind them.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you get out of the taxi and you head. Well, you find yourself at the end of the alleyway that leads down into Ransom Court, which is the name of the small square that Juju House is sat on.
Are we all going in, all four of us, or how are we going to play this?
So let me ask you, how far away from the alleyway do you actually get the taxi to pull up? Are you just going to pull up at the end of the alleyway and get out and walk down, or how are you going to do it?
No, I think round the corner, or just a few hundred yards away.
Okay, so you get dropped off a block away on West 137th Street, which is where where Juju House is, and then you can walk the rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Harlem in the daytime, even though there aren't many white people in this particular part of the district, it's not as intimidating, as tense as at night. The police presence isn't quite as high, so you feel it's you don't particularly feel threatened in the daytime, whereas at night it's a little bit of a different atmosphere.
Plan?
I'm not sure. Do we all want to go in together, or might it be better for two of us to go in and two to keep watch?
Yeah.
Or
How are we playing this?
all of us go in 2 and 2.
We're just going to go in and do what? Go in and look around and see what they're selling.
Yeah.
And do what? Because it's going to be a shop. It's going to be selling stuff. How do we then progress from that into identifying?
Well, perhaps. Well, we can scope out the geography of it in case we are going to return some other time. Perhaps I could get in conversation with whoever runs the shop, and I've always got contacts in moving artworks on to and this shop in Harlem. I can't imagine is going to have some of the contacts that I have uptown. But I think we need to. Well, it's a little difficult without knowing what the nature of the shop is.
Well, without going in gung ho.
Where are you having this conversation, by the way? Just on the street, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think on the walk up to Ransom Court.
Slowly.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to gain anything just by talking. I think this is going to escalate, and it will certainly escalate the minute we start trying to find anything useful out of them. Because it'll either be we go in and we ask about what we can buy and sell, in which case we're not going to find anything valuable, or we'll identify that they're lying because they'll be uncomfortable. But what do we do at that point? Because we need to see what's in the back of the shop, be it a speakeasy or some kind of location for conducting worship, or maybe there'll be an occult library there or something. We just don't know what the only way we're going to find out is by getting into the back of the shop.
Well, until we go in there, we don't know how feasible that is. So I say we just go in there posing as customers, and
Nothing gets you into the back of the shop faster than a punch in the face.
Ah.
You feel pain suddenly shoot through your side at the at the thought of getting involved in any sort of altercation whatsoever.
Well, Douglas, you had me at a cult library.
Why don't you three go in and I'll stay out here? I'll wait till I hear the gunfire and then I'll follow you in. I'm characterizing how things go with
how
us.
This is going to go. My concern is I've been in this situation before and it ended badly. I feel that history is going to repeat itself for that to happen to us. But we go in and see how it transpires. I'm not going to go in looking for confrontation, but just be aware that it may happen whether we want it to or not.
Yeah. Well, if all we discover is the nature of the shop, the lie of the land, we'll be a little bit the wiser before we enter it. To try and penetrate a bit further.
Okay, so you're getting quite close to the alleyway now.
Right, let's go. So we go in, and you're going to wait outside then.
Yeah.
So you're all gonna go down the alleyway to the court in front of the shop, or are you gonna wait at the end of the alleyway?
I think I'll head down toward the shop.
Okay.
And look in the window initially.
So you're heading down, and the rest of what are the other three of you doing?
I'm going to go down with.
Okay. So Jacob and Douglas, you head down the alleyway. You can see that the shop front, the curtains are drawn back, revealing a display window. In the display window, you can see that there are pieces of African art. So, like masks, weapons, other kind of fetishes. It seems, from. Are you actually? So you as you approach the courtyard, you can see that window straight ahead of you. You can also see in the corner of the courtyard there are some crates that weren't there before. They're probably about knee high. The crates, it's about 5 or 6 of them, and they've been piled up. And then there are 2 African American men sitting on the crates chatting. One of them's got a bottle which is wrapped in brown paper. They look quite disheveled. The clothes are dirty and ripped.
Do they? I'm going to surreptitiously sort of assess them fairly closely. I mean, do they look like they're down and outs, or do they look like they're posing as down and outs?
Good question. It's a very good question. Let me have a look. Make a. Well, I'm going to make a spot hidden roll for you. See what you think. Yep. You think that they are like kind of wino, down and out tramp types, judging by their appearance. Their eyes kind of flick up to watch you as you walk into the courtyard, but they don't give you any other vibes that they're not particularly threatening, and you feel like they probably are what they appear to be.
I'll just have a look in the window, just generally browse for a second. Are there any prices on anything?
Not in the window,
No.
No. Hold on a second. You're there as well, aren't you, Douglas? Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Do I get the same impression?
Yeah, you're not particularly sure, or you're not happy with the way that they look at you. It may be just your paranoia, or it may be actual actually an actual kind of a response.
They say just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you.
Doesn't mean they're not after you. You have a feeling that it's rather convenient that they're just sat out there and they look. You think they might be lookouts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll keep.
Again,
whilst Jacob's looking at the shop, I will keep an eye on them and be prepared to respond if they do toward.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're looking in the window. What else? There's a little. So obviously you see. I told you what you see. There's nothing. There's no prices on them. To be honest with you, from Jacob's perspective, the stuff in there is just tat. It really is. I mean, it's none of it really has any artistic value. It's not high end stuff in any way, shape, or form. It is literally just kind of almost like tourist. If you went to Africa as a tourist, it's the sort of stuff that you'd be flogged on any kind of market there.
I think we should go in, Douglas. See if they have anything.
Yeah.
Anything more interesting.
Yep. Very well.
I'll head in.
Okay. You head inside. As the door kind of sticks as you try to open it, you push it open to go inside. You have to force it. It kind of sticks on, and then it frees itself. It bangs open, and a bell kind of rings. The wrong word. It clatters. It's obviously not particularly good quality and isn't really working properly. A kind of damp, musty odor greets you as you enter. The shop inside is small and kind of dimly lit. The front windows aren't particularly clean, and the office affords the only light into the room. It's a small shop. It's about 15 feet by 20 feet, and it's dusty, dirty. It's piled with African tribal artifacts and bric-a-brac, things like devil masks, leather-headed drums, stuffed model giraffes, carved wildebeests, dull hand weapons intended for display, ivory warthogs, and so on. The shop has an oppressive, uneasy feel to it. You see in front of you, behind a cluttered, waist-high glass cabinet, which acts as a counter, stands a shriveled old African-American man wrapped in a red blanket. He greets you with a toothless smile. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How may I help you?
Good afternoon. I was just browsing. I was looking in the window. I just wondered whether you might have anything a little bit more authentic than some of the items in the window.
His eyes narrow and he looks authentic. You mean these are all genuine African artifacts?
I'm thinking of something that may be a bit more interest to someone uptown, as it were. I have some contacts in the interior design business, and we're always looking for new sources of items. But I think some of the customers we serve might be a little more interested in something a little more ancient, perhaps more antique.
I am not an antique shop.
Well, it may be that I've had a wasted journey. Perhaps if I could just have a quick look around, see if there is anything I've missed. I'll just have a wander around the shop, just picking up the odd item and looking at it.
He just nods. You can see he's standing there. You both of you get the feeling that he's eyeing you suspiciously as you kind of poke around the shop. As far as the shop goes, other than you can see that behind the counter where he's standing there, you can see that there's a door that obviously leads through to the back of the shop. But that's it, really. Pardon? Yeah, closed.
Door's closed.
Yeah. So other than all of the items that are for sale, and the window, and the glass counter in front of him, and that's it. And there's a door that leads out through the back, and in this very small kind of 15 by 20 foot room, that's all there is. The kind of the masks and other kind of African artifacts kind of leer down at you from the walls. It's not particularly nice place, really. But
how old does he look?
Well, he looks. Well, how old does he look? You could put him anywhere between 70 and 85. He's really he's quite he's quite wrinkled and small, and cadaverous. He has both his lobes are pierced quite heavily and are pulled down. He looks like not particularly healthy.
Does he smell?
Well, now you come to mention it, there is a bit of a kind of, I wouldn't say, it's a kind of musty odor. You're not sure that it's coming from him, maybe just from the shop. So no, there's no strong odor that might.
He doesn't have that kind of like waxy appearance to him or anything like that.
No.
Does he look at? Does he just doesn't look edgy? but he's just suspicious of us.
Yeah, he looks suspicious. You glance at him, you can see you get the feeling that he wonders why you're in here. Obviously not his standard type of customer. Also, you're in, even being in Harlem in the first place, but then walking into a shop, it's not. Wow, he just seems suspicious of you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, which is fair. Yeah, fair enough. I'd be suspicious of us too because we're suspicious.
Do you see anything you like?
Well, some of it may be of interest, but as I say, I was really hoping for something a little more antique with a bit more provenance, if I can put it that way.
Do you have any more stock out the back, perhaps, that we could look at? We are willing to pay top dollar for any unique items that you may have come by.
All of the stock that I have is out on display.
Where do you get your stock from? Which particular areas?
So I can't. You're breaking up a bit there, Andy. What did you say?
I said, which particular parts of Africa does your stock come from?
Mainly Kenya.
Are you likely to have any additional stock arriving soon? Would it be worth us coming back at a later date, or would it be more of the same?
We have deliveries at the beginning of each month. If there is anything in particular you're after, I may be able to inquire as to whether I can furnish it for you.
Decorative ceremonial headdresses, ceremonial weapons.
Big pieces with real visual impact.
Okay, you see, when you say that, you see his eyes narrow even further, and he says, I must ask you to leave. Need to close up shop now.
But it is early. We would be most interested in discussing further what you might be able to import. If you have additional contacts in Africa that might be able to furnish us with the kind of objects that we're talking about, this could be a very lucrative agreement we could enter into.
Perhaps you have a business card we could take, or alternatively, perhaps we could take your name and we might be in touch.
I do not have a card. I am Silas Nkwane. I will. Maybe you come back. I will see what I can.
Well, we may do that. So thank you for your time, Silas. If you need to close up, we won't stand in your way.
Just nods.
All
the time it hasn't moved from behind his glass counter at this stage.
See his hands and stuff. Is he?
Okay, you go back out through the door into the cold, fresh air. The two that were standing in the courtyard, they're sitting in the courtyard. They're now standing up. They're still in the same place, but they're standing. Again, they're not obviously paying you attention. But Jacob, you still get the same feeling that they're watching you. Douglas.
I will head back out to the street through the alley.
Douglas, can you make a spot hidden roll for me, please?
Killjoy. 22.
Okay, Douglas, your keen eyes note that there is a telltale bulge at the top, at the waist of one of the individuals that was outside. You think he's probably got a knife at his belt.
I'm glad you said knife and not pistol. Right, are we going to depart?
Just keep walking. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys then, Lex and Stanton, you've just been outside at the top of the alleyway, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lex, can you make a luck roll for me, please?
I rolled 66, which is a little bit too high, I would say.
Okay. As you're standing around, you've been there a couple of minutes waiting for your colleagues to come back out of the shop, and you suddenly, Lex, your eyes fall upon a couple of policemen making their way up the path, maybe on your side of the street, heading in your direction. You gonna just stand there?
Yeah, just on the street outside the shop. I don't think it's
It's not the same ones as before, is it?
Can you make a luck roll, please, Lex?
Oh, I'm doing a lot less lucky. 98.
Okay. As they get closer, then yes, unfortunately, they are the same. Two of the same three police officers that moved you on from here before. You can see now that they've seen you and they're moving quite quickly towards you. You're going to just stand there.
Yeah.
Okay. They come up to you and say, "What are you doing here again? Didn't we send you away? You can't be lost again."
No, I'm not lost again. Having save the neighbourhood, it would be interesting to come back and have a proper look in the daytime.
If you're not careful, we can do you for mopery hanging around.
Okay.
What's your business here anyway? Says the other one. Why are you so fascinated with this place?
Fascinated. Just checking out the neighbourhood with a couple of friends. Popped into a shop. I'm just waiting for them to come back.
What shop have they popped into?
Oh, one just down the. I gestured down the alleyway.
You see, okay, can you both make a spot hidden roll?
I've succeeded.
Oh,
Okay.
God. Stanton.
Wonderful success.
Stanton's got his eyes. Stanton's cleaning his glasses.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I was cleaning my glasses at the time.
But Lex, you can't help but notice that they definitely exchange a knowing glance with each other when you mention that they're in the shop down the alleyway, and they quickly try and conceal it. But you actually see that glance exchange. So in the shop down there, you say?
Is that a problem?
Maybe we'll just have a wander down. By the way, can I just take your name?
Yes, of course. It's Alexander War.
What?
What's your name?
I'm just officer to you. Less of the tongue. How do you spell your surname?
Just like it sounds. R-O-Y.
And where do you live? Your address.
West 34th Street.
Number?
374.
That's not your address, is it?
Oh.
Can you make a fast talk roll, please?
Oh, fantastic. I've pulled out the full 99. Give me a flake.
That's
Oh, but the thing, that's harsh because you weren't sure whether that was actually my address.
He twitched when you said it.
The officer just looks at you and he shakes his head and says, "Do you want me to take you along to the station? I asked you your address, your real address, kid." He prods you in the midriff with his finger.
The two of them.
Yeah, you're about almost like you're about 6 inches taller than he is, and about twice as wide. But that doesn't seem to, he's got a nightstick. The other one says, "And you, glasses. What's your address?"
Oh, 203 West 111th Street, apartment 12.
I think we need a fast talk roll as well, don't we?
No,
You actually given your actual address?
No, it's straight down, straight down, different apartment, but it's close enough.
Okay.
It's close enough. I like that.
Yeah.
Can you make a fast talk roll as well?
Yeah, I mean, I get the right road. I can't remember the number though.
It's a fail, isn't it?
Fast talk, you say? Yeah.
Yeah. You two. We're asking you a simple question. Give us your address. If you got something to hide, if you have, come along with us to the station.
Come along to the station. Yeah, okay, no problem. Let's go.
His eyes widen. Says, "Right, smart Alec." He blows his whistle, and another police officer in a car turns up in a couple of minutes. "What about you? You need to come with your friend?"
Am I being arrested?
"No. If you give us your address, you won't be."
I gave you my address. West 37th Street, 10th Avenue, on the corner. That is my actual address.
Okay.
Well,
You're right.
Yes.
You're right. I'm glad you've seen sense. And your friend here. What's your name?
William Ainsworth. Work at the university.
What university?
Or Columbia University. It's not far.
Look,
You seem very worried about the fact we're standing on the street corner, officer. We're just waiting for some friends to come out of a shop. I genuinely don't understand what we've done wrong.
I wasn't worried, my friend, until you started telling me lies when I asked you where you lived. And when folks start doing that, then it makes me suspicious. If you just tell the truth, you've got nothing to hide, that's no problem. When you start spinning the yarn, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. I can tell when you're lying. I ain't been doing this job for 20 years not to see a liar. Now you've told me the truth, that's fine, but why did you lie to me in the first place? I only asked your address.
I misspoke.
Just be careful with what you say then, especially when you're talking to the police. You can see that the other two have actually come out of the shop now. So you guys come out of the shop, open the door into the courtyard, and as you're walking towards the alleyway, you can see the two police officers stood talking to the other two at the top of the alley. Seems your friends are on the way. They leave you two alone, and they walk down towards Jacob and Douglas. Meet you halfway down the alleyway.
I'll carry on down towards Jacob and Douglas as well.
Morning, gents.
Good morning, officers.
We meet again.
It appears so. You seem to like this alleyway.
I could say the same for you, since you were a lost tourist last time we spoke.
Indeed.
Very reassuring, officers, to see such a clear presence from the force on the streets.
These are dangerous streets, dangerous part of town. Bad things happen in Harlem, if you get my drift. I'd steer clear of it if I was you, says the other one.
What, even during the day? Even during the day, officer?
Well, gentlemen of your standing could be a target in this area. Lots of poor people live here.
Well, thank you for your concern, officer.
Fancy white guys may draw the wrong type of attention, if you understand me.
Well, we'll bear your sound advice in mind, officer. Thank you.
Yeah, you mind that you do.
Well, perhaps we should be going then, officer. I don't want to present myself as a target for any longer.
Sounds like a good idea. They both kind of stand aside and let you walk past.
I'll take up the opportunity and head straight away.
Can I make a mental note of their badge numbers as I go past them?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You move away from the alleyway, back down the main street.
Well, so no coincidence then that we were stopped the other night?
No, it's almost as if they have a sixth sense, though.
Mm.
Is it just bad luck or something more
actually,
sinister?
yeah, it is just bad luck. You could ask Lex about that, whether it's just bad luck or not.
Well,
let's head off before we discuss it further. Perhaps get clear of these two rather nosy police officers.
Okay, you make your way out of that particular area of Harlem. Once you're out of sight of a ransom court.
Here's an interesting thought. How about we make an anonymous tip-off to the police that something illegal is going on in the Juju house and get it raided?
We could.
Because that's our job done for us.
The problem is, I suspect they have some police protection. There seems to be an annoyingly attentive set of police officers in the area.
Well, there is that, but that would prove the point if we make it a sufficiently high-value crime.
Darren, given that I'm in the art business, is that a viable business? I mean, in terms of what they're selling, the number of customers that they might get in that kind of area, the prices involved, is that, in other words, is it really an obvious front to someone who can kind of tell whether it's a loser in terms of a business or not?
Well, you'd have your doubts. The sort of stuff he's selling, where you think, well, he can make a paltry amount of money, which I guess is probably all he needs to make living. So it's not a particularly viable business. But considering the price of the items and where it is, no. But would it make enough money
between the lines?
It's not in your. It's obviously a completely different kettle of fish, the sort of stuff that you guys are used to. But so whether it's an obvious front or not is difficult to say, because he probably could make enough money. He's only him on his own selling stuff.
Yeah, and his two henchmen who are watching outside.
I'm sure those police aren't cheap.
So there's
quite clearly more to this. There's someone who's earning that kind of money from selling African hat is not going to need two lookouts and the police in their pocket.
So, yeah, that's a valid point. You guys know how much it costs to to sweeten those sort of deals.
Sweeten the deal, yeah.
Yeah, and it's big money that you'd never be able to earn through like what he's selling. That's for sure.
If we were to tip off the police, the problem is it's going to be Captain Robson who's in charge of Precinct 14 in Harlem. If Silas Kwame is paying off the police, then I can't see a complaint's going to achieve anything.
No, that's fair.
Unless Lieutenant Paul can arrange for a different precinct to do it.
That's when you get the feds involved, isn't it?
Well, is that an interesting point, Douglas? Would the feds be involved in certain types of crime?
Yes, they would. But it does mean that we would lose access to anything that was in there. We're going to have, that would just put a stop to whatever's going on, but it doesn't progress us in unpicking Jackson's threads.
The other point as well is that you probably, to get the feds involved, you probably need a little bit more than a random tip-off with no
Tip-off.
evidence.
Well, no, absolutely. It may well be a approach we don't want to take. So we have a choice. We come back here again another time during the day and force our way into the back room past the owner. What's there? We would have limited time to do that because we would have to restrain him and we would have to deal with the two gentlemen watching outside, and it wouldn't give us very long before the police themselves turned up, or we break in during the night. But the police seem to be around then as well. I'm less concerned about the fact that the police know who we are now, because given that we're being watched anyway, I think it's pretty obvious that we're not operating anonymously. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, if we are going to enter Juju House, I prefer to do it surreptitiously at night rather than attack it during the day. We're guaranteed to get into a fight if that happens.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it doesn't look like daytime's an option. Nighttime is risky.
Do we have any other threads we could